Hey everybody, we're back again for the second version of our 2000 movie list, 2000 to 2009, the first decade of the 2000s. And I'm back here with Shawn and Brian and Trey. Of course, Trey has reactions to the classics, him and his dad, wonderful channel. And we all met through that channel. So check his channel out. I'll put a link below. AYBL Maine, Brian, fantastic. He's up and coming. I will also link his channel below. So please subscribe to these guys. And we're all movie lovers. And we're going to take this on. This time it's comedy from the 2000s. So this will be interesting to see if we have similar tastes or we're all over the map. So Trey, again, you're going to lead us off. And what do you have for comedy? 5 through 1, please.
All right. Well, I'm going to start this off with one of my favorite directors, Richard Linklater, and going with it, 2003, School of Rock. I know we all love music here as well. The soundtrack in there is fantastic. Some multiple Zepp tunes in there, and just kind of a feel-good film as well. I watched it recently for the first time in ages, and I was pleasantly surprised how well it held up. And you know, Jack Black's definitely a hit and miss kind of actor for me, but this is one of his better roles in my opinion. And you know, just kind of coming in as the substitute teacher and you know, kind of switching gears and being like, you know what, we're going to go against the grain with this. Let's start a band essentially with these school age kids. And the child actors are pretty solid in that. And there's also some heartfelt moments, more so than the other movies on my comedy list here. So I got that at number 5. Number 4, going early 2000s here with Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro, Meet the Parents. And gosh, so many legendary scenes in this one. You have, and poor Ben Stiller's character, Gaylord Fokker.
Unfortunate name ever, man.
And they just give him so much crap about being a male nurse, coming in, you know, with the family. His girlfriend's sister is, you know, getting married, and gosh, it just everything that could go wrong in this movie does. And just you know, the chemistry between De Niro, who, you know, is like an ex-CIA or FBI guy, and you know, here you have Ben Stiller as kind of this portrayed as this weak little dude. And I just think it's great. But one of my favorite scenes is whenever they're playing like volleyball in the water, and you know, Stiller's character goes up, he spikes it and like makes her nose bleed and whatnot. Everybody's just giving it crap.
It's a great scene.
That's
it's
awesome.
Great, man. And that's one I think that has held up throughout the years. Number 3, definitely I'm pretty confident it's not on anyone else's list. And I had to show some love though, since we don't have like an animated category. This is one that's kind of close to my heart. Saw it back in the day. Was a big fan of the Pixar films. I'm going Monsters Inc. Shout out to Sully and Mike Wazowski. I think Pixar, pretty clearly, at least here in America, the top premier animation studio, coming in after Toy Story. I think that Monsters Inc. was the first film after that, and Mike Wazowski's just
I'm watching you, Wisnowski.
Dude,
always watching.
It's great. You have John Goodman in there. You have Steve Buscemi, a pretty stellar voice cast, and just the whole concept too kind of switches from where they want to scare all the kids to like energize their worlds. To then they figure out laughter is more powerful than scares. So yeah, as any good kids movie does, kind of leaves you feeling good. And my number 2 is kind of totally different from my number 3 here. This is a film that I think is just absolutely hilarious. I'm going The Hangover at number 2. This is one, you have the guys going together Time for a Little Bachelor Party in Vegas. You have the scene, well, the first time he was put on my radar, Zach Galifianakis, and coming in, and you have Mike Tyson doing a cameo. Yeah, teeth being taken out, and essentially they were all drugged and didn't know it. And they come across, they have a baby. You're just like, what the hell's going on? I actually did a parody. There's this song in there called about the tigers, like what do tigers dream of? And I did a parody of that in 8th grade, and
Wow.
I became the legend of my 8th grade right there for doing that. They're like, Trey, that was great. I don't know if my broadcast teacher who let it air knew where it was coming from. If she did, she probably would not have let it appear. But hey, I took it, man, and that's one that has a high level of rewatchability. And my number one is yet again, I see here in my comedy list, all very personal to me. Maybe not the best 5 comedies of the decade. This is one. It's just my type of humor, man. And yet again, as a kid watching it, it just has resonated with me. I went as Napoleon Dynamite for Halloween multiple years. If I watched this now as a 25-year-old man, who I doubt I would think it was very good, but it's got that nostalgia factor to me and just that weird, dry sense of humor. You got Uncle Rico, the legend man who would have won state if he'd never gotten injured. You got Pedro,
For Pedro.
You couldn't escape those Vote for Pedro shirts back in the mid 2000s, man. And John Heder plays Napoleon Great, is just this kind of wimpy, geeky sort of dude. But at the end, he puts those dance moves on and kind of turns the tide in his life and whatnot. So that's one that always cracks me up. It hurt me to leave off so many of the Will Ferrell comedies that I love in this decade, but I'm sure y'all will kind of pick up the slack from me on that one.
Very good. Outstanding.
Very good.
I have a couple of those too. Doc, you want to go number 2 here and see what we
Yeah, I
have?
can jump right in if you want. Here we go.
Absolutely. Ready.
Sure. I'll jump in with my number 5 with a Will Ferrell just right out of the gate there for Trey, just to put a smile on his face there, everybody. So I'm going to go with Step Brothers, actually, is the one I went with out of the gate. So
It's on my short list for sure.
yeah, for sure, man. Him and John C. Reilly there, I mean, it's a comedy movie, and it's going to be, a lot of this is going to be personal taste on one level or another, and somebody's going to like it, someone's not going to like it. It's there to make you laugh, man, and I think the movie does a pretty good job of giving you some good laughs through this whole thing, because they're just real 2 buffoons, really, that are hooked up as Step Brothers. There's no other way to say this, man. So, and the mother father hook up, and these 2 end up together, and it's it's just a stupid comedy that's funny. What's that?
You put the nuts on the drum kit.
That is such a
classic, man.
That's a classic thing.
Yeah, so Step Brothers comes in as my number 5. Number 4, I'm going with Hot Fuzz, actually, with Simon Pegg.
Hey,
Wow.
there you go. Nice.
Haven't seen that. I missed that one.
Yeah.
It's pretty friggin' funny. It's pretty violent too, actually. It's
Wow.
but it's a comedy is what it is, with a lot of violence, and it's really
Nice.
a hotshot cop moving to a small town, and the town is perfect, but really the town's not perfect. So, and that's the comedy of the whole thing behind it as it goes along, with a lot of, oh geez, I remember the one guy, I'm trying to remember the cast that was in there. Who was it? Timothy Dalton, I think, is in there. I think there's a whole bunch. Jim Broadbent's in there. There's a whole bunch of people in this movie that are living in the town. You find out why these people are slowly disappearing as thing goes on, and it turns into a mystery, a comedy mystery kind of thing. But it's pretty funny, pretty well done. I like a couple of Simon Pegg movies, and this is the one I went with because it was really going to be his other one. Oh, Shaun of the Dead almost made my list as well. So, but I went with the Hot Fuzz. So
Very good.
number 3 is going to come in with the Hangover from Trey. So that makes my list as well. It's I think it's the best of the 3, and it's pretty friggin' funny. You're right. It's a comedy of things, and you're not expecting the baby, you're not expecting a cop car, you're not expecting Mike Tyson, you're not expecting a tiger, you're not expecting, mocking around until you get to the photos at the end, which explain quite a bit that actually happened on the night before. So that's but they eventually made the wedding eventually. But a very good comedy when it came out, man. It still holds up pretty good today, actually. I just did the trilogy Just me and the wife watched them not too long ago, actually. So
Yeah.
they're actually all pretty funny, but number one's the funniest, I think. So
Yep.
Leads me to number two. This one, it's just, you know, this one I would consider the history of the, you know, blazing saddles of 2000 to 2009. I'm going to say it's kind of got like that kind of feeling for it. When I say it, you'll know why, but it's Tropic Thunder here. It's this is not a politically correct comedy movie in any sense. But let me tell you, if you put all that aside, it's a pretty friggin' funny movie, man.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
the parody of the old war movies, and
Yeah.
you got every war song you could possibly imagine you've heard throughout your years watching a war movie is in this movie about making a war movie. And let's just say there's a lot of comedic kind of scenes throughout this movie. That Jack Black is in it again. This is actually one of his better ones as well. So I'd say, you know, you're right. He doesn't do a whole bunch of great things or anything like that. You know, Gulliver's Travels might be the end of it, and that's it. So who knows? But it's a pretty friggin' funny movie, man. So I'd put that on number two. But my number one goes to the Coen brothers. Oh, brother, where art thou? So that's my number one. I think it shows a lot of diversity, and actually George Clooney is very funny in this movie, man. And it actually gave me a new respect towards him, because I thought George was always the same character for a lot of years when he was acting and stuff like this, outside of different things. But I mean, he showed he can act, and this is Coen's showing that they can do a lot of different things too. So just a story about him wanting to get back to his wife and all these things that has to go along the way. And, you know, you're not meeting the smartest bunch along the way when you're doing it, but it's very comedic and undertoning and dry humor throughout the whole thing, which really drives the movie. And, you know, and it brought us the, you know,
Very good.
the soggy bottom boys, man. You know, it was good.
That's right.
Yeah, wonderful sound.
That's my number one. That's
Yeah,
my
great
number one.
soundtrack is right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. I didn't see that
Thank
one
you.
coming, but that's a good pick. Brian,
Thanks.
what do you have for us?
All right, so this would be the first animated movie that I would have to on a list as well. At number 5, I had Finding Nemo. It's a Pixar film. You know, actually, I thought that the humor was rather adult in places. Not that it was like, you know, any innuendo or things like that, but it had a lot of humor that only adults were going to understand. So it
Yeah.
really was kind of made for us just as much as it was kids. I mean, you take Albert Brooks and Ellen DeGeneres, and their chemistry in this movie, as far as the conversations that they have, is just really good. I mean, probably my favorite scene in it is when they're riding the turtles on and the through the little rift in the ocean there, and the little baby turtle comes out and he's got the goggles on. He's like,
Right.
"Good afternoon, we're gonna have a great jump today," you know. And I was like, this is great. I said it was highly entertaining. I loved it. So number 4 for me is Zombieland.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a Ruben Fleischer movie, but I found it entertaining because here it was taking all the hype of zombie movies and zombie this and zombie that, and it added a comedic flavor to it that was just enough to, like, you know, so you could have this tongue-in-cheek thing going on. You know, it's got Woody Harrelson in it, and and the geeky guy there. I'm not even sure of his name, but they're traveling across country and they're just looking for a place to settle down, basically, is what's happening. Probably the funniest thing in it is when they accidentally kill Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
And then he's lying there dying, and they said, "Mr. Murray, do you have any regrets?" And he goes, "Garfield." I mean, they just says it just as nonchalant.
That's right.
I was like, that's classic. Number 3 for me, just like Shawn, is I've got Tropic Thunder. It's a movie that cannot be made today. Robert Downey Jr. said that he said that Jamie Foxx talked him into doing that role.
He was great in that role too.
Yeah, he was fantastic in that role.
Even the color of his skin, the dialect, he had it down, man. It was awesome.
It's just great. And even Ben Stiller, who, you know, basically, you know, his character had played a character that was mentally, you know, deficient. And you couldn't get by with that today. There's no way you can even get past any type of censors whatsoever. This is no way. I think Tom Cruise steals the show at the
He
end. of it.
does.
Tom
He
Cruise
does.
He
is
does. That
fantastic.
dance scene at the end credits is just absolutely that. Tom Cruise stole the whole thing right there.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
was like, maybe the only movie that I truly like Tom Cruise in.
Wow, that's a statement.
Number 2 for me is 40-Year-Old Virgin. It's part of
Yep.
that whole Judd Apatow, series of comedies and stuff. And it's got Steve Carell's character as Andy, who is 40 years old and he's never had sex. And his group of friends are trying to come up with scenarios in which they could actually, help the man out a little bit. Probably the best scene in it is when Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen are in his apartment and they're having this banter back and forth about, how I know you're gay, you like Coldplay. So, I don't know you're gay, you macarate a pair of shorts. I mean, they're just going back and forth. All that stuff is improvised. It's funny. It's great.
Funny movie.
I loved it. Number 1 for me also is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Right
I
on.
don't think there was a funnier movie, for the 2000s. It's a modern day, it's a kind of a comedy, modern day retelling of the Odyssey is really what it is. Clooney and Turturro are great in it. John Candy plays the Cyclops. And so it's really kind of cool. The humor in it is just great. I mean, it's just wild, over the top humor and buffoonery that just work. And the soundtrack is just, the first soundtrack that I listened to on my 1001 albums, when I finally said, okay, I'll start doing soundtracks, was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? That it was just it's just perfect soundtrack. Great movie.
Very good. That's 2 people that
Cool.
had that in the number 1 hole. It's going to be interesting to see if it shows up on my list, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, I want to make one comment about the 40-Year-Old Virgin. It didn't make my list, but that waxing scene too.
It was pretty freaking hilarious.
She made him so red. I don't know if he did the special effects or he actually went through that, but that was a painful scene. I have a couple of honorable mentions. One of them is a Christmas movie, Elf, which I really enjoy every year. Very, very funny. Wedding Crashers is another one I really like, with the whole gang. And then animated comedy, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think it's a super movie. It just didn't make my list. In the number 5 hole, I have one of Sean's, and that's Step Brothers. What a silly, this 2 bums, these 2 slackers, just lazy as hell. They don't want to do it. They don't want to work. They don't want to do anything. And yet they have this rivalry with their parents. Mom doesn't love me. Mary Steenburgen and Richard Jenkins play the parents. They can't get rid of these 2 characters, played by John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, who are hysterical. The drum set that Trey mentioned earlier, with the nutsack and the drum. Just, if you love sophomoric humor, baby, this movie's got it. It's silly, but it is very funny. And that musical they do, Boats and Hoes. Remember that?
Yeah.
Boats and Hoes, boats and hoes. They're out on the yacht. I mean, it's just hysterical. It's silly, and it's just meant for cheap laughs, and that's what it gives you. Number 4 is a Christmas movie with kind of a dark comedy, really, and that's Bad Santa, starring Billy Bob Thornton, with John Ritter and Bernie Mac in supporting roles. This kid he befriends. Thornton's an alcoholic. He's a grumpy bastard, really. He doesn't really like people. He's posing as Santa, so at night they can sort of sneak in these malls and rip people off. And it's mean-spirited, but it does have a heart towards the end of the movie when he develops a relationship with this young kid that's bullied, overweight, and so forth. Vile language. Some of the stuff that Santa says to these little kids while they're on the lap. The one kid pees on him. It's just killer gags. It's a lot of sight gags, but I really like the movie. Cloris Leachman's in there too, as his grandmother who keeps making sandwiches for Santa and the kid. Number 3 is one of the Christopher Guest movies, sort of a mockumentary, Best in Show.
Best in Show.
I really like this movie. It sort of pokes fun a little bit at the dog shows that they have that show up on TV. The owners, the handlers, the announcers. It takes a little, it knows the game inside and out. Improvised dialogue. It's got a great cast: Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Fred Willard, the late Fred Willard. It's really a brilliant movie. If you watch it a couple of times, you see how clever it is. So Best in Show is my number 3. Number 2 is one that a couple of you guys had, Meet the Parents. I think it's a worthy film. It does hold up. The interplay between Stiller and De Niro is awesome. Just the name Greg Fokker is enough to make you a little, you start smiling right away. So
For sure.
the guy can't do anything right. He's under the microscope of the CIA guy, De Niro, who wants the best for his daughter. The male nurse, he takes shots at him left and right. He can't do anything right. There's a thing with the dog, the roof. There's all these sight gags going on. He makes him take a lie detector test, I believe, in the movie as well.
That one's great.
He's under surveillance in the bedroom. I think he's accused of smoking pot, maybe, or I forget.
Yeah, I think it was smoking pot.
Yeah. Oh, it's just old school humor. De Niro, again, for being one of the great dramatic actors, he can pull off this comedy very well too. He's got a lot of range late in his career. And Stiller is a funny man. You got Owen Wilson in here as his fiance's ex-boyfriend, I guess. Real funny stuff. A lot of laughs. I can watch that anytime. But my number 1 is the one I always go back to, and that is The Hangover. Hey. I love the movie. It's perfect, man. Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, and Zach Galifianakis. I mean, come on. You got Ken Jeong as the little Asian guy in the trunk, and
that's right.
The bachelor party gone wrong. Everything goes haywire. You don't remember what happened the night before. Like you guys I mentioned, they have the lion and Mike Tyson, the baby. The guy gets married to Heather Graham at one point. I mean, there's a trip to the ER, and the doctor has to remind Bradley Cooper, you were knocked out, and one guy's missing a tooth. Remember, the tooth came out.
The tooth is gone.
Yeah. They have no idea how this happens. And then at the end, like Doc said, the pictures at the end tell you the whole story in over the credits in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's beautifully made. If you like that kind of humor, and the whole Vegas thing, the lifestyle, they win a ton of money, and somehow that gets taken away by whoever, the bad guys. And there's a guy on the roof. They can't find a guy. They can't find one of the wedding party guys. The actual groom, isn't it? Isn't it the groom?
It's the groom. It's the groom.
It disappears. Yeah. But it's classic. And the 2 sequels were inferior, in my opinion, both of them. This is the one to see, the original.
Yeah, totally agree.
So great job, guys. I like everybody's picks on the comedies. So we're going to wrap that up from here. Next, we're going to be back with drama from the 2000s. Please come back and check us out. Don't forget, subscribe. AYBL Maine, reactions to the classics. Trey Holmes, glad to have him here. And of course, Doc and I will be back as well. So we'll see you on the flip side for part 3 of our continuing series. Thanks again. Take care.